Hello, everyone. I am Stephen Alvarez. I am professor of English, St. John's University. I am honored to be here today at the 2026 C's Feminist Workshop. I don't have a lot of time, so I am going to dive right in, everybody. Uh, I know if you were promised you were promised Foodways Rhetorics for this feminist workshop. I'm really going to dive in today, though, with something decolonial in nature. Come back to tacos. Excuse me. Before I go too much further, I'm going to start off with a short video from Vandana Shiva to set out some terms, and I hope this will generate some discussion for us here. I may fast forward a little bit just so I can save some time.
There is such an intense debate about who feeds the world. There is one myth that without the Green Revolution, India wouldn't have been fed. But the Green Revolution was only rice and wheat, and it transformed biodiverse systems with very high productivity into monocultures of rice, monocultures of wheat, pumped with high doses of chemicals, 10 times more water. Today, our water has disappeared, our soils are polluted, a cancer train leaves Punjab because the toxics and pesticides have created a cancer epidemic. The reality of who feeds the world is the biodiversity that we are growing here at Navdanya. These amazing millets, the forgotten foods that have disappeared from our fields and from our tables. The diversity of crops grown in cooperation. The amazing intensification of biodiversity, where the beans grow with the cereals, where millets that produce 40 times more nutrition and use next to no water give us food security in the worst of times. But because we've had an arrogance and a racism, assuming that only globally traded commodities are food, and a racism that treats everything dark as inferior, we've driven out healthy food, we've driven out biodiversity, and we've replaced it with monocultures and industrial foods and industrial agriculture. Industrial agriculture accounts for only 28% of the world's food production. It is using up 75% of the world's resources. This is a highly inefficient system. They were to reach 100% of the resources and destroy our soil, destroy our water, destroy the biodiversity, and mess up the climate. They could at best get to about 40% food supply, but with a collapse of the entire ecological base that gets food to us. We are made repeatedly to believe that replacing monocultures of rice and wheat with monocultures of corn and soya that are genetically modified is feeding the world. Only 10% of corn and soya that is grown worldwide is going to people's table. The rest is biofuel and animal feed.
And just in the interest of time, everyone, I highly recommend you read Dr. Shiva's book. I'll have it in the works cited. This is a sort of a preview of her book and what she really dives into. Um, Start off with another quote here by someone a bit more familiar with some of the research I've done, but also among the farm workers, those folks in California. I have some family members or agricultural workers. This is from Cesar Chavez and reads, if you really want to make a friend, go to someone's house and eat. The people who give you their food give you their heart. It's a little bit of a segue moving from what we had with some of the critical approaches of Shiva, but here turned into some of the social, the local, and also how food, friendship, making community, what I also describe as confianza, some of my work, really gets us to think about food making community. And so we'll come back to Dr. Shiva in a second because I think what she points to is a kind of monocultural, what we call industrial agricultural foodways. And what I want to present to you today with some of the work of these scholars here, both Dr. Shiva, but also Rueda and Esquivel, and also Calvo, are thinking about decolonial approaches to foodways. Oh, wait, sorry, I have my little camera up here. There I am. I'll make sure you see me too. So let me start off here, everybody, because I'm for the interest of time with some of the key quotes from Calvo and Rueda Esquivel, rather, excuse me, to really start thinking about foodways approaches that are decolonial. And I think this might have some approaches that could be useful for some of the work that we do and also for some of the work that we do with our students. So decolonial approaches challenge histories of racism, heteropatriarchy, and the culinary heritage of colonization. Interesting enough, that colon is there in colonization. Food connects us to our ancestors, the land, and our bodies, but also, as Dr. Shiva was saying, biodiversity, and biodiversity can way of thinking about decolonial farming. Colonized foodways, the reverse with this, we think about the Western lifestyle, diet, agribusiness, trade, GMOs, labor, or what Shiva described as the cancer train. Related to this, to come back to something with some ancestral foodways, I'm really thinking about decolonial approaches that really move towards this diverse, biodiverse, and one where we can think about some of the more tradition that are oftentimes female-led. The imposition of the Western diet and lifestyle has resulted in skyrocketing rates of diabetes, metabolic syndrome, heart disease, cancer, alcoholism, and asthma. We reach a critical moment in which the survival of our generation and those that follow depend on our dramatically changing socio-economic systems that promote toxic monoculture crops and commodity foods laced with, if not entirely composed of, poisons. And so you can see a direct link here from what Shiva's words were, and her persuasive way of approaching monocultures. And also in this case, we can think of the monocultures related to education, monocultures in education. Most oftenly, we posit this with standardization. Now, in my case, and what I would encourage everyone here to really think about is our writing pedagogies and moving this work in foodways to start thinking about the decolonial, the colonial industrial ways of really unpacking the way we understand foodways and connecting with people, but also ancestry, sharing the meal with those we love, but also understanding that the food systems are a part of this. So in that sense, everyone, I really advocate for writing pedagogies that frame, conceptualize, interpret, and highlight the plurality of local histories, social struggles as well, informing translocal, emergent, multi-ethnic, translingual, and transnational presence and futures. And the way Foodways can do this, of course, is really thinking about migration, but people who migrate, and also how the foods are an expression of the people, and oftentimes I would say the genius, and connected to their larger cultural frames of reference and understanding of the world. Also, writing pedagogy should be grounded in social justice, democratic pluralism, connecting challenges to inequalities transnationally. Focusing on inequality, especially in the food system, is of the utmost importance. But for our students as well, and for the work that we do, we can see how this becomes very poignant, and particularly how in ways it's as gendered. In this case, we can also focus on writing and using language to build both critiques and also to compose expressive projects that reflect translocal struggles and history. And the expressive part, I think, is important because foodways can be expressive. It can be ways we can express care. It can be a way even of expressing disdain. And so the thinking about foodways as an expression and a communicative and having a semiotics behind it, I think, is important for the work that we do. And I hope this leads us to have some rich discussions. I will end here, everyone, with an example of some research I had a student do for a taco literacy class. The student made a website here, and for the website, she interviewed her mother. And for this, I would advocate for students when we're thinking about ancestral foodways to really think about our ancestors and the people who feed us. Oftentimes, the people who feed us are the people who taught us how to read, and both of those were um, things grounded in love. And so it was really important for me when I teach this class, especially when I have students who are Latina, Latino, Latinx, Latine, to speak to their ancestors and sometimes to speak to their parents, especially. And then, of course, to write an essay about this related back to foodways. Well, this beautiful quote from her mother. She says, "We came to a country that is used to eating fast food. Each day is more difficult to conserve our traditions and teach our children about the food from our country." And you can see uh, the dilemma Senora Coloca was expressing here, but also how then this may connect back to some of that research we saw before about monocultures. And larger, you can think about food franchises, the uh, the seduction of fast food, if you will, and most importantly, then for a student like Dory, this student, to have this plática with her mother to learn more about her mother's food ways and the way her mother tries to preserve traditions despite these threats. So here are some works cited, everybody. There's Shiva's work and Calvo and Ruud Esquivel if you were interested. And that's my information, everybody. Oh, I should have said update that Twitter to X, but whatever, you get the idea. It's all garbage anyway. So thank you so much for having me, everyone. I'll end the shared screen. I hope I finished that in time, and I wish I was there with you all. Thank you.